Good evening. My name is Kelli Donley. I'm an Arizona native, a Phoenix Permaculture Guild volunteer, and a United Methodist. This evening, I'd like to talk a little bit about planting change in our community. Latest census data nationwide shows 1 in 7 American families lives in poverty. In our state, it's 1 in 5. We're only behind Mississippi, or Mississippi is the only one behind Arizona. That means in our community, right here in Tempe, 1 in 4 children is deemed hungry, meaning they miss at least 1 meal a day. As far as I'm concerned, this is something each of us in this room this evening should stand up for to change. It is completely unacceptable, as far as I'm concerned, that children in our community are going to bed hungry. When we live in a state where one of the 5 C's for any child who grew up going to elementary school here, we learned one of the 5 C's in Arizona is citrus. We can easily grow fruit right here on the desert floor. So I started thinking, what can we do to plant more fruit trees using no more water, recognizing that water is such a precious quantity in our community, to grow more fruit trees, to provide more children in our community with fruit and produce? It's completely unbelievable to me that in many communities in our state, Cheetos are less expensive than apples. That's unacceptable, and that's something I want to change. So I started thinking, what if we contacted all of the communities and all of the plots in the valley, to start off, that currently receive irrigation? There are many spots, such as elementary schools, churches, parks. On these irrigated lots, right now, majority are watering Bermuda grass. That seems very foolish to me. Instead, for a minimal investment of about $20 per fruit tree, we can get up to 1,000 pounds of fresh fruit per tree. So what I'm doing is I'm leading a community-wide initiative called Fruitful Harvest, which is going to contact as many of these lots as possible, any organization that has irrigated lots currently watering grass, and instead ask them to plant a minimum of 5 trees for an investment of about $100. We did this at my church, which you'll see on the slide above, Asbury United Methodist in downtown Phoenix. I contacted the community leaders at the church and said, listen, we're spending the same amount of money whether we're going to water grass or we're going to water trees. Let me plant trees. They're used to my crazy ideas at this church, and they said, go for it. Fast forward a year later, we've got 75 fruit trees planted. We'll have thousands of pounds of fruit for hungry congregants in our church and the community within the next 2 years. As a permaculture volunteer, I can guarantee you planting a fruit tree in the valley is as easy as gardening comes. This little girl did it. It takes just a little bit of effort. In less than an hour, you can plant those 5 fruit trees. And within 3 years, each tree will be producing about 1,000 pounds worth of fruit each. So what if we were to feed those families that planted the fruit trees initially in their backyards, if they're already getting irrigation, or the kids at those schools, or the people at those churches or mosques or synagogues first, and then all of the excess produce were to go to the food banks? What if the food banks were to get involved to feed other families in our state where they could ship this produce to feed hungry bellies? Doesn't that sound like a great idea, a great community change? And what if the National Food Bank or the National Gleaning System participated, to where the excess produce could go up to other states? As you know, in March and April, we're all pretty sick of that citrus, right? How many of you get bags and bags of grapefruit? I know I do. By April, I never want to see another grapefruit. But people in Idaho do, and people in Washington do, and people all in other parts of the country where grapefruit is a luxury do. So if we were to send this produce to those states through the gleaning system, they could send produce back to us, which is exactly what happens with the National Gleaning System. Last year, Arizona received 3 million pounds of produce from other states with this system. So my vote for change today is to encourage all of you to contact your friends and family who may have irrigated lots in the valley, to ask them to participate in Fruitful Harvest, to make a minimal investment of either their money or their time, and to stand up for positive change in our community. It just simply doesn't make sense to me that we could be using this water, which is now going to grass in the desert, when instead it could be going to growing great produce. So I ask you tonight, how many of you had fruits and vegetables today that were grown here locally? Raise your hand. Anybody? Who wants to have fresh produce tomorrow in our valley, grown right here with water that could otherwise go to grass? Anybody else? Who can help give me just an hour of their time to help see 1,000 pounds of fruit go into hungry bellies in the valley, to instead make sure that our kids are eating oranges and apples and figs and pears instead of Cheetos? Anybody? One more. Thank you. My name is Kelli Donley. I'll have information in the back.